If you grew up in the 1970s, chances are you were exposed to some truly unique children's television, shows that were charming, surreal, and at times just plain odd. Today, we're taking a deep dive into 10 kids' shows from the 70s that you might have completely forgotten about. But once you hear their name, those long-lost theme tunes and peculiar characters are going to come flooding back. Get ready for a trip down memory lane, because they really don't make TV like this anymore. First up, a little elephant with a big adventure. Here Comes Mumfie was a beautifully crafted string puppet show about a plucky elephant who set off on adventures, meeting all sorts of curious characters along the way. Unlike later animated versions, this original 70s series had that delicate, slightly eerie charm that only old-fashioned puppetry can provide. It wasn't just a happy-go-lucky kids show. There was an air of mystery and melancholy to it, making it oddly mesmerizing. If you remember it, chances are you can still picture those slightly stiff but somehow expressive puppets making their way through their enchanting world. Next, let's talk about the Flumps. Ah yes, the squashy, woolly family of bobble-headed creatures who made everyday life look absolutely thrilling. Grandfather Flump on his Flumpet, a kind of homemade tuba, Posy Flump being adorable, and that gentle narration that made you feel like everything was right in the world. The Flumps was a masterclass in warmth and simplicity. Basically, it was a hug in TV form. Now, if you preferred your childhood entertainment with a dash of the supernatural, you might remember The Ghosts of Motley Hall. This was a show about a group of ghosts stuck haunting a grand old house, each from a different time period, bickering like an afterlife sitcom. Imagine Downton Abbey, but everyone's already dead. It was quirky, funny, and managed to make the idea of being eternally trapped in a crumbling mansion seem kind of fun. But maybe you were more of a Rupert Bear kid. The Adventures of Rupert Bear was a strange mix of charm and nightmare fuel. Those eerie, lifelike eyes on the puppets, absolutely terrifying, but the stories themselves were fantastic. Rupert and his pals, Bill Badger, Algie Pug, Edward Trunk, and Podgy Pig, embarked on some wonderfully whimsical adventures. If you grew up watching this, you probably have a deep-seated love of cozy jumpers and a slightly irrational fear of talking animals. Now, if Rupert Bear's puppetry was slightly unsettling, Hickory House took things to the next level. This was a show where a human host interacted with puppets in a house where everything, literally everything, had a face. Talking cushions, a chatting dustbin, a mop with a personality. Basically, it was a fever dream disguised as a children's program. It was charming, it was odd, and it probably left you wondering if your own household objects had secret lives when you weren't looking. For a slice of real-life drama, there was The Kids from 47A. This was a bit different. No puppets, no ghosts, no animated bears, just 4 siblings fending for themselves after their mum was hospitalised. It was full of heart, a little bit of chaos, and had the kind of gritty, real-world charm that made it feel almost like a soap opera for kids. If you ever fantasised about running your household with no grown-ups around, this show was pure wish fulfillment. Now, let's talk about Ludwig, a show about a sentient, egg-shaped machine that played classical music and popped out various gadgets like some kind of 18th century Inspector gadget. It made absolutely no sense, but it was strangely mesmerising. A mechanical egg rolling around a woodland setting, accompanied by Beethoven. If that sounds bizarre, that's because it absolutely was, but in the best possible way. Of course, no list of forgotten gems would be complete without Mr Benn, a man who walked into a fancy dress shop, tried on an outfit, and then got magically transported into an adventure suited to his costume. Knight, off to medieval times. Spaceman, straight to another planet. It was simple, it was magical, and it had that mysterious shopkeeper who always seemed to know more than he was letting on. But here's a fun fact that might surprise you. Mr Benn was narrated by Ray Brooks, the same actor who played Giorgio in Carry On Abroad. So, if you ever thought Mr Benn's voice sounded oddly familiar, now you know why. Then, we have Noah and Nellie in Skylark, featuring a husband and wife duo sailing through the skies in a boat with 2 of every animal. Except, for some reason, each animal had 1 cheerful head and 1 grumpy head. Classic British humour. The animation was pure 1970s. The stories were wonderfully surreal, and the whole thing had an oddly calming charm to it. And finally, Simon in the Land of Chalk Drawings. If you were the kind of kid who liked to doodle, this show probably inspired you more than you realised. Simon could literally bring his drawings to life and step into a world of his own creation. It had a soft, sketchy animation style that made everything feel wonderfully dreamlike. The theme tune alone is enough to send anyone straight back to their childhood. So, there you have it. 10 children's TV shows from the 1970s that you might have completely forgotten about. Whether they filled you with warm nostalgia or made you question what on earth was going on in kids' television back then, one thing's for sure, they don't make them like this anymore. Which of these do you remember? And are there any others that deserve a shout out? Let me know in the comments, because if we're going to relive these childhood fever dreams, we might as well do it together.